Within the heart of an ancient forest, there existed a small village named Sowington. Its cobblestone streets wound their way through the settlement, usually bearing witness to the cheerful mutterings of a season's good harvest and joyful laughter. But as of late, an eerie quiet settled over the village. For the last 3 full moons, something awful had taken place. Whispers circulated through Sowington of those who had ventured into the woods under the moon's baleful glow and never returned. It wouldn't be until the morning after would the villagers be found. Each time their bodies were found torn and devoured, in part by some animal. Their carcasses were almost unidentifiable, showing the violence with which the animal performed his kills. It had gotten to a point where rumors of a werewolf were passed around, which only added to the terror now circulating within the village. It was this inexplicable horror that fueled the anxiety now plaguing Sowington. Each full moon brought with it the terror of loss, and the villagers, living in constant fear of the unknown, yearned for a reprieve. This is where Lord Harrington thought up a most brilliant idea. Lord Harrington, a pragmatic ruler with furrowed brows, presided over Sowington. He and his daughter, Lady Evelina, had always lived in Sowington and had never once had to deal with a situation so tense. Lord Harrington, burdened by the responsibility of his people's safety, felt compelled to act, and act he did. Desperation painted his decision when he called for a grand masquerade ball, an extravagant spectacle meant to divert attention, if only momentarily, from the horrors lurking beyond the safety of their village walls. Preparations were made, and for a moment it seemed as though Sowington had returned to its cheerful self. Where fear once lingered, joy took its place. Wherever you went, people were talking about the ball and how extravagant it was going to be. Women bought dresses and men bought wine in anticipation of the night's splendor. The masquerade, in essence, was a desperate gambit to wrestle back control from the ominous forces that haunted Sowington. The Lord's mansion, adorned with flickering candles and ancient tapestries, stood as a beacon of light in the encroaching darkness, a symbolic defiance against the malevolence that lurked in the moonlit woods. Costumes were meticulously crafted, and an air of anticipation and trepidation enveloped Sowington. Among the revelers was a mysterious stranger, Lord Valerian, whose enigmatic charm captivated the villagers. Most of those who lived in Sowington had always lived in Sowington. Very few had travelled beyond the town's limits. To them, Valerian was a spectacle. The villagers soon learned that he hailed from a land far outside of Sowington and had only resettled here due to religious persecution. He wouldn't say what denomination he associated with, but said that he and his family, who sadly couldn't make it to the ball, were driven out due to their religious habits. Apparently the whole ordeal had become quite violent, and Lord Valerian wished not to speak of it any further. As the clock neared midnight, Lord Valerian took center stage and proposed an idea. Holding masks adorned with silver linings, he unveiled a plan to unmask the creature haunting Sowington. The silver-laced masks, he claimed, would reveal the true identity of the beast. The air thickened with a mix of hope and skepticism as the masks were distributed. Though the masquerade was meant to be a respite from the terror of the previous months, Lord Valerian had other plans. He stated that it would be a shame to waste an opportunity to unmask the town's assailant. The night's events went off without a hitch, and the villagers' minds were at ease. Lord Harrington and his daughter offered to host the masquerade in their estate's ballroom. Though it had come with the house, Lord Harrington and Lady Evelina had never had a use for it until now. In all honesty, the home was too big for just two, and it often felt cold and lonely. Tonight, it was filled with laughter and joy, and for a moment, Lady Evelina and the town at large felt free of worry. That was until midnight. As the clock hit 12, a haunting howl echoed through the hollow, sending shivers through the assembled crowd. Panic erupted, and the once elegant ballroom descended into chaos. The silver masks held tightly against the faces of the guests glinted in the moonlight, casting an eerie spectacle of shifting shadows. Amidst the confusion, Lady Evelina, the Lord's daughter, observed from the sidelines. Beneath her delicate lace and silver mask, a knot of unease tightened in her chest. Her eyes darted between the accusing crowd and the enigmatic Valerian, who watched the chaos unfold with a subtle smirk. A realization dawned upon Evelina as she witnessed the unfolding drama. Valerian wasn't wearing his mask. Valerian, with his silver-laced masks, had manipulated the villagers into a game of paranoia, casting doubt on everyone but himself. The true werewolf had orchestrated the masquerade, diverting suspicion away from himself. Determined to expose the truth, Evelina navigated through the panicking guests. The howls outside grew louder, echoing through the mansion like a macabre symphony. As she approached Valerian, a sense of dread gripped her, but she steeled herself for the confrontation. "Lord Valerian," she spoke, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "There's something amiss here. Your plan seems to have sown more confusion than clarity." Valerian turned to her, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling intensity. "Lady Evelina, sometimes chaos is the only path to revelation. The true nature of the beast will always find a way to reveal itself." Evelina's gaze never wavered. Beneath the mask, her eyes burned with determination. "I believe the beast has already revealed itself, and it wears the guise of nobility." As if on cue, a blood-curdling howl echoed from outside the home. "I'm sorry it's come down to this, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity to get the whole village in one place," Lord Valerian said with glee. Then, without warning, Lord Valerian began to writhe in pain. His noble demeanor crumbled as fur sprouted from his skin, and his limbs contorted into the shape of a beast. The guests recoiled in horror, their accusing fingers now directed at the creature in their midst. Panic and terror gripped the ballroom as the true werewolf stood revealed. Evelina's heart raced as she stared into the eyes of the werewolf, the only thing that hadn't changed from Valerian's appearance. The truth unfolded before her. Valerian was the beast that haunted Sowington. Evelina, however, did not cower. Instead, she seized the opportunity to act. Guided by an ancestral courage, she reached for a candelabrum nearby and thrust it into the werewolf's path. The silver-laced flames ignited a searing pain in the creature, causing it to howl in agony. The distraction allowed the panicked guests to flee the ballroom. Lord Harrington, not willing to leave his daughter alone to fight the beast, threw an unlit oil lamp at it. It struck Valerian on the side of his snout, breaking and covering his fur in oil. Enraged, Valerian lunged forward and clamped down on Harrington's head with its great jaw. In an instant, Lord Harrington was gone, his head now separated from his body. Evelina watched in horror as her father was killed in front of her. Now alone with the beast, she searched for a way out. With a mix of courage, determination, and sheer anger, she lured the werewolf into the mansion's courtyard, where the moon's glow was unobstructed. The final confrontation unfolded beneath the moonlit sky. Evelina, armed with nothing but a burning candelabrum, faced the werewolf. The creature, wounded and incensed, circled her with predatory intent. Yet, in Evelina's eyes, a spark of defiance burned brighter than ever. As the villagers gathered outside, drawn by the commotion, Evelina's courage shone through. With a swift and determined motion, she thrust the silver-laced flames toward the werewolf, its searing touch causing the creature to recoil. In the blaze of silver, the beast's fur, drenched in oil, caught fire and set him ablaze. Valerian howled in pain as he collapsed. The werewolf, now scorched and defeated, transformed back into the human form of Lord Valerian before dying. The moon's glow bathed the courtyard in an eerie stillness as the villagers looked upon the fallen nobleman in shock and horror. With the menace vanquished, the curse lifted, and the truth laid bare. The villagers began to emerge from their hiding places. The once fearful crowd witnessed Lady Evelina standing amidst the aftermath, her silver-laced mask now discarded. For a moment, the villagers seemed relieved and began to cheer for Lady Evelina. Then, out of the darkness, they heard it, howling. Not from one wolf, but multiple. Tears began to drip down Lady Evelina's face as she made the realization. "His family," she said, trembling.